Look, and now we are all set for a very special session on women in solar. Why we are having this discussion today is I'll bring some statistics to you. According to 2023 statistics from IRENA, women account for just 40% full-time positions in the solar power sector. While this is better than the entire renewable energy sector, which has 32% full-time women employees, it's still quite less. 32% representation in solar power sector in STEM jobs, and just 17% senior management roles. That's actually pretty disappointing even, in this day and age. So that's why we think that this is very important and very pertinent to talk about. There has been some dialogue on this topic, but we definitely feel that, more of such dialogues and discussion is required. At Renewable Watch, I'm quite proud to announce that a vast majority of senior management in our company is actually made up of women. So a big hand for us. And we're all set to begin the discussion. And I would like to invite the panelists one by one. We have Ms. Nidhi Gupta, who is co-founder and director, Race Power Experts. We have Ms. Sarabhjit Kaur, Deputy Country Head, India, EDF Renewables. And we have with us Ms. Mani Khurana, who is a Senior Energy Specialist at World Bank. May I please invite all the ladies on the dais? I'll introduce all three of you one by one, and then we can move to the discussion. Ms. Nidhi Gupta is co-founder and director at Race Power Experts, like I said. She's a notable leader in India's solar power industry. She entered the renewable energy sector in 2012, driving her company to significant milestones, including the establishment of over 1,200 megawatt of solar installations. Under her guidance, Race Power Experts manages assets valued at approximately 2,000 crores. She's spearheading ambitious growth plans, aiming to set up solar plants with a total capacity exceeding 2,500 megawatt across 4 different states. Additionally, she's pioneering the company's expansion into wind and green hydrogen sectors. She has a computer science degree. Ms. Sarabhjit Kaur is a seasoned energy and finance professional with experience in business development, M&A, and project financing across the energy infrastructure value chain. She has led teams from a project investor perspective while with EDF and Oman Oil Company, and from an advisor perspective while with EY. She has led teams in working across the transaction life cycle of sourcing, screening, structuring, and closing transactions. Her areas of expertise include valuations, financial modeling, due diligence, strategic planning, project agreement structuring, negotiations, and project financing. She's a mechanical engineer from IIT Delhi and has an MBA from INSEAD Business School. Then we have Ms. Mani Khurana, who's been working for over 17 years at the World Bank and leading investment projects and analytical activities across energy sector value chain. She's been leading the bank's power sector engagement in various states in India. The engagements include financing of the critical power infrastructure and providing technical assistance to improve the operational efficiency and financial sustainability of the power sector utilities. She's also leading the World Bank dialogue on energy transition, including solar rooftop, battery storage, and offshore wind, has co-authored many World Bank studies. And she has an MBA from Indian School of Business and holds a master's degree in economics from Delhi School of Economics. Very happy to have you. Throughout the 2 days of our Solar Power in India conference, we had a very different set of discussion, obviously more on solar power sectors, problems, the issues that developers face, that financiers face, manufacturing. And now we come to a different issue about representation of women in the solar energy sector. If I can start from you, Ms. Gupta, can you just tell us about your journey in the solar power sector as an entrepreneur, and how you started your own company and what has been your experience?
Hello everyone. First of all, thank you Renewable Magazine for inviting me in this session. It's actually a very important session. It's an important topic to be discussed in this session itself. So I am Nidhi Gupta, Director, Race Power Experts. We started this company, me and my brother, we both have started this company in 2011. And we are both first generation entrepreneur. We don't have any job and business experience from our family or from any of our relatives. So what Raise Experts does is we provide turnkey solutions to all the CNI developers, starting from the land to the designing, purchase, construction, commissioning, and then providing O&M services for next 25 years. We are majorly in 10 different states of India, and our major part of business is in Rajasthan, where itself we have around 6 different solar parks. It's not wrong to say that Raise Experts is the first company in Rajasthan who has come up with the concept of private solar park. So starting at 2011 till 2024, we have done more than 1200 megawatt projects with more than 300 customers in hand. So this is a short journey of Raise Experts. Now coming to the session part, it's me, Nidhi Gupta. So I've done my graduation in computer science from Jaipur in 2012. And then after only I started this business with my brother. Having graduation with under computer science and entering into the solar industry was not an easy task. I didn't have any knowledge of solar, electricity, anything else. So I decided to go to my site, which is in Bikaner, Rajasthan, stay there for 2 to 3 months, want to understand each and everything, small, big thing, every small nut bolt of the industry. So I decided to stay there. And yes, my parents supported me a lot, because without their support, it was not easy for me to stay and to understand the things. So that time, our company was doing the first project of 250 kilowatt project as a ground-mounted one. And I still remember a few incidents happened with me. So there was one fine day, I was standing at a site, and a gang of around 50 people, 50 youngsters, they forcefully entered in my site, and they were doing all the misbehave, nonsense, whatever they can do, without recognizing that in front of them is a lady standing and getting the work done. That day I decided that I will not spare them. And I went to the police station. SHO was quietly hesitated, being a local, he cannot do the FIR easily. I went to the collector of Bikaner. Fortunately, she was also a lady. So she supported me a lot. And we get the FIR done. And next day itself, more than 10 people got arrested in that case. With that incident, I was very much sure, yes, I can survive and I can thrive in this field. So that was the first incident which happened with me. Because at the age of 21, seeing all these incidents and meeting an IAS officer, IPS officers were not easy. But yes, that happened, and that was the starting of my journey. Since then, I've seen several ups and downs. We have done several projects, and then around more than like 1200 megawatt we have commissioned. But yes, I can see there's a gap, there's a gender gap in this renewable sector. I don't feel in myself or any other lady who is in renewable sector, but yes, the ladies outside renewable, they feel a gap because they feel it's a field of man. No, it's not a field of man. It's a field of human being. It's a field of us. It's like, it's a gap in our mind. It's not a gap in the industry. We need to understand this thing very well. If a girl, if she has the intent or she has the capacity to grab the knowledge from anywhere of the industry, not only renewable, any industry, and she can think it's not a man field. If that doubt can get clear from her mind, it's very easy for any girl who can, who can see the success in her life. So knowledge is very important. Knowledge is like, it is actually very important for everyone. we girls have a supernatural power from the God. We are like, we have the power, it's a God-gifted, from God, it's a God-gifted. We have an instinct, we can, you know, it's a very, we are very sensitive. We know, like,
Right.
what the person feels for us, or, you know, what can be his next action, that we can easily feel. We are very emotional.
Right.
And at the same time, we are more powerful than a man.
Right. Yes.
We are more
Definitely.
powerful than a man.
Definitely.
So if we decide that yes, we are able and we have the capacity to take knowledge, to understand the things, we can do very well. And I assure you, like currently the ratio is 40:60. If that goes to more than 90%, this renewable sector will be at the next level.
Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Gupta. We'll move to Ms. Kaur now. Ms. Kaur, you come with a different background. You've had a different journey, you know, working with EDF and before that Oman Oil Company and various leadership roles in this organization. Can you share with us your journey, but particularly from the time when you assumed a leadership role? How has that been?
Okay, so hi, can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Kushbu, and thank you, Nidhi, for sharing your personal journey. I might go a little, I'll take a step back because I think the context is also quite important. And I'm very happy to be here to discuss this very important topic and to have this conversation. So energy transition, obviously, it's quite important to us as a country. And as you know, as a country, we've already set up very ambitious targets for ourselves. All of us know those targets, 50% energy generation from RE sources by 2030, going net zero by 2070. And so thinking that all of this we can achieve without gender balance in the industry is actually not true. It's not right. So a little bit about me. My name is Sarabhjit Kaur. I'm the Deputy Country Representative for EDF Renewables in India. And in my current role, I manage and grow our RE footprint in the Indian market. I'm an engineer by background, like you mentioned, from the Indian Institute of Technology. I did my mechanical engineering, and back then, and it still is, quite a male-dominated field. We were 5 girls in a batch of 120 back then, and which was a lot, and it was a big number. Typically, there would be about 0 to 1 or 2 girls in the entire batch. And then I went on to do a master's in management, my MBA from INSEAD in France. To answer your question, I think if you look at this topic of gender balance and gender equality, what I've seen is that companies themselves are taking measures to promote gender diversity. I can speak from my personal experience at EDF Renewables. So our chairperson and CEO is a woman leader. So it's Ms. Beatrice Buffon. 35% of the executive committee are women leaders. And if you look at the numbers in France, it goes up to 45%, which is quite impressive. But sadly, the numbers are low in Asia Pacific, particularly in India. So that is true for not just for the company, but also for the industry in general. And I know that you mentioned previously the numbers in the country. So what I can actually say is that this diversity and inclusion, I think it should start from us. So when we speak about diversity, I would like to add that it's not just about gender diversity. Diversity is related to gender, it is related to age, background, income, sexual orientation, you know, things like that. So my personal journey has been that, of course, you need a combination of measures to be taken by the companies and the government. And then you also need your own personal drive, and I think it's something that all of us need to lead at our own personal level as well. So while companies are doing their part, we have to do ours as well. And I think that we need to start early. For instance, we need to start with promoting STEM education from an earlier age for women. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Promote our girls, promote our women to take up STEM in their education fields. And breaks gender stereotypes. I've never been a fan of gender stereotypes. I think that's something that we can do quite easily in our day-to-day lives as well. And I've seen that through my career, that I think if each one of us, and whether we are a woman or a man, I think both of us, both genders need to break these gender stereotypes. Right. And I think that will go a long way towards achieving gender balance.
You spoke about your journey as a mechanical engineering student.
Yes.
I think it was the same for me. I was maybe one of the 6 girls in a batch of 30 people in my MTech as well. So that's still there. I mean, it was there in your days. It was it's still there. You brought a very important point about how companies also need to, take such initiatives and have more, gender equality-related policies in the company. But I'll come to those policies a bit later. Will you move to you, Ms. Khurana? 17 years in the World Bank. I'm sure World Bank, being World Bank, does not have that problem where you don't have that gender misrepresentation. But still, you work in India, in many other, I'm sure, in many other parts of the world, where you may not see such, equal sort of representation. So can you share some learnings from there?
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. And it's a pleasure. So I've been on a number of panels for promoting women in energy sector. And it's always so nice because every time you hear fresh stories, and it's amazing how different people have gone through different journeys. And I think the main thing is, frankly, I'm not an engineer. So I did not go through, being one of the 6 girls in an engineering class. And I did my BA Economics, and then I did a MA Economics, and then I went for my MBA. And the girls may be less in the MBA batch, but they were enough. So I don't think I ever felt the gender thing. I actually realized the gender thing when I joined the World Bank. So the thing is, it's not about World Bank. World Bank, there's enough gender balance, but by the end of it, who do we deal with? We deal with the utilities. At the time that I had joined the World Bank, renewable energy was not the talk of the town, right? At that point of time, we were still dependent majorly on coal, building more coal plants, and we had the same generation, transmission, distribution issues, which have been going for a very long time, how the distribution companies were not performing that well. And most of the World Bank engagement was focused on dealing with, at the state level, with the transmission distribution company, building in efficiencies, and and doing the investments. And there were hardly any women. So there were n number of times, and I was all of 24 when I joined, and there were n number of times when I would be the only woman in the room. There was a meeting, I can never forget, in one of the, I won't name the state now, but in one of the state utility discussions where, I was the one doing the financial analysis at that time, so of the investment which was happening. So I was asking them questions, what is, different things about the plants. And that gentleman kept answering the questions without looking at me. He could not acknowledge the fact that this 24-year-old girl is sitting in the same room asking him questions or asking for justification, why is this high and why is this low? What are you thinking about it? How will you improve the efficiency? It was a very tough thing at that point in time. I actually had to get up and say, I'm here, look at me, and answer. So, and I wasn't offended. I knew these things exist. I'd heard enough about it. And we all live in India. We've seen enough uncles and aunts who might behave like this at some point of time. And so the thing is, it's important. I think it was very important to step up at that time and tell him, I exist. I'm still here. I may be a woman, but I know how to do a financial analysis. So I think, and over time things became better. There was no doubt about it. It was always easier. Like you said, you met the collector who was a woman. So anytime I had a MD I was dealing with who was a woman, or the secretary who was a woman, it was much easier. It was easier to talk, but I just, I can't generalize, but there were a few tough men in the room. But having said that, I see, I know this topic is about solar energy and women in solar energy, but I think the main thing is renewable energy still has a lot more women than energy sector as a whole. So if you see the numbers if you see energy sector, it's much less than what you would see in renewable energy. And I feel that is where we should focus on. See, the point is not about solar, renewable energy or energy. And I take to the point which was said here, any industry, why should there be a difference between a man or a woman? And why would you feel that a man would flourish more in this industry and less in the other? Or a woman would flourish more in an industry and less than in the other? So the question remains, and I know you'll come to that policy thing later, so I can talk about what World Bank is doing in that space later. But the question remains, we actually, as Sarabhjit said, we have to catch them young. This thing, when a kid is born and they start studying, they don't think, I can't do this. Over time, as the studies grow and they meet people, they'll not be meeting people working in the energy sector, right? It's difficult. So, they may not meet, they would meet enough aunties who are doing other things, but not in an energy sector. How do you make sure that you catch them young? You tell them you can do anything you want to do. And frankly, my education wasn't streamlined for energy sector at all. It was just that I had the financial experience. I started doing, project. It was more like a financing role that I took up in the World Bank. Over time, I learned about the energy sector and I became a senior energy specialist because that is where I wanted to do something. Because as, the utility reform interested me, the renewable energy interested me, and now we all know that it's a different ballgame.
Right.
So, that's it.
Lots of interesting thoughts from everyone, but I'll try to break it down into different parts. We'll go to policies first, because I think that's what everyone said, that we need right policies. So, Ms. Gupta, you have your own, company, your own organization. What policies do you, try to incorporate in your own organization to have, better gender representation or encourage more, young ladies to come?
So in our company, we have different departments. We have around 7 to 8 departments where we normally try to have equality, like 50% men, 50% women. As equality, we always try. But yes, it's not, it's very sad that still girls are not understanding and they don't want to accept field work, because if you are in a renewable sector field, you have to be at the field sometime. Like you cannot do a desk job from 9 to 6. You have to go to the field. You have some practical experience of that. Normally, girls are not ready, but we normally try to have equality. If a department, like if I say, if we have a design department, we have a team of around 10 people. So currently, we have around 4 girls in our team and 6 are boys. Same as purchase also, we have around 3 girls and, so in purchase, yes. In purchase, we have around 3 girls and 2 boys. So that is like, there is an, because procurement is like, okay, you can do a desk job. But overall, girls are less in renewable sector. And we normally, I personally try and I personally motivate girls.
Look for more female candidates, probably.
Yes, I actually want more female girls in my organization, as well as I want to be in the field itself. Like.
Right, so you feel there's a hesitance from,
Yes, there are. That
okay.
is there.
All
That
right.
is there.
Ms. Kaur, coming to you, what sort of policies do you think are required to, address this kind of an issue where there is obviously a question of working at remote sites where a lot of girls and their families might not be comfortable. So what sort of policies do we need to get over that barrier?
So I think if I speak of policies, you have to approach this topic in 2 ways. One, of course, is how you attract more female talent in the industry, in your companies? And then the second aspect is, how do you then retain that female talent in your company? And I'm not going to repeat what Nidhi said. Of course, as founders or as senior management, one can make efforts to attract female talent into the company. But it's also equally important to retain them. Because overall, I've seen throughout my career that the drop rate for women from the workforce is much larger, much higher drop rate compared to men from the organizations. Women tend to drop out for various reasons. It could be related to familial constraints, childcare, societal reasons, and so on. So I think companies need to formulate policies that allow women to continue with their job. So for instance, I think when India introduced the mandatory maternity leave policy of 6 months, I think that was a very good step. Typically you see a lot of women tend to take a large break in their career, postpartum. So I think that would be one step. So provide more maternity care, postpartum care. Another thing that I've also seen that helps is childcare. So I've seen some companies, and even in the renewable energy space, that they support women post children to in various ways, in the form of childcare. Now, childcare could be monetary. It could also be just a simple step as having a nursery in the campus, in the premises. So we've seen in my current role, I also lead qualification audits for module suppliers. And I was very impressed to see one particular module supplier who actually had a nursery in their campus, in their factory. So I think that those kind of initiatives are a good start. So I think it'll address the dropout issue as well.
Right. Okay. Ms. Khurana, your take on maybe some policies that can be...
World Bank has this project called the WePower. WePower, W-E. So it basically did an assessment about the countries in South Asia and the women participation in STEM so far. And what very clearly came out from all the studies, and it's not surprising that the numbers are much less, more in renewable energy. But what happened after that was the main areas and the intervention points were understood. Where should you do and at which level, what should be done? So obviously at school, promote STEM. College is the time where more and more women leaders, if they go and actually have talks in college, that is when the kids are making up their mind what next, or what is the higher education that they should take. And that intervention has shown that if you do that intervention, it's really helpful. So, just talks, making them understand what you do. Having said that, coming to the retention thing, once you join the job, many ladies leave. And again, the studies showed very clearly the percentage of women at the top leadership level was much lower. Much lower because they drop out from the workforce due to various reasons, as was pointed out. Now, when it comes to retention, there are a number of things which were spoken about, but there is also a thing about why don't you let them rejoin? Some people need to take a break. And this, I've said it earlier, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's a fact. Women and men, when it comes to taking care of their household or family situations, women have to do more. There's more responsibility on women. I don't think there's anything wrong in saying, yes, there is a difference. And then saying, okay, what can we do to address that? Therefore, it is required that we don't try to hide that in our society, women are not expected to do more when it comes to household. Having said that, work from home has worked. It worked wonderfully. It was also very clearly seen, coming to the creche, there was a study done that is it more economical for the company to lose an asset which you've trained for all these years, who knows your thing very well, or to just open a creche there so that they are comfortable, that the kids are being taken care of, and they can continue working. So if you actually come down to the economics of it, making these small adjustments for women workforce in your organization will make a world of difference. But the main thing is to acknowledge there's a difference, and there are more responsibilities on a woman.
Right. You spoke about women leaders going to colleges and talking to young girls. But I actually read a study, I don't remember, I think it was by ILO, which said that India definitely has maybe the maximum number of girls who actually go into STEM education, but very few of them actually take up careers in STEM education. Most of them go, they maybe drop out, they don't decide to, pursue careers in STEM, or they go for, admin kind of roles. They don't necessarily pursue a career.
Exactly, because they think they cannot join this workforce, and give it their best because they have other things on their agenda that has to be done. Therefore, at that point of time, if you have a woman leader going and talking to them and saying it's possible, you can balance the two. It is not that people haven't done that. You can also do that. That is, see, it takes a village to help a woman, behind. So it might be in terms of your family, a very supportive husband, or your hired help. But obviously you need support system. Support system is very important. But the fact to say that it cannot be done is what I don't agree.
Right. Ms. Kaur, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I think mentorship is quite important as well. I think in general, women, and studies have shown this as well, that women are less likely to seek out mentors at the workplace compared to men. So I think that's a to-do on us women as well, that we need to actively seek out mentors at the workplace. So they could be men, they could be women, but seek out mentors, seek out sponsors at the workplace. And also on the men, I would say, I think it's also a to-do for the men at the workplace to also mentor junior women, so it works both ways, but I think mentorship will also go a long way.
And I think there are a lot of international programs, especially in the renewable energy I've seen, where there are mentors working with young girls already working in this field or studying in this field. Like, I think there's actually a very big global international women's network platform or something which works in this, right? Coming to skill sets, I think there are a lot of studies which show that, women leaders tend to be more empathetic. They have better people management skills. They have better, they're able to multitask maybe a little bit more. So what skill sets do you think we actually bring to the table as women leaders, especially in the renewable energy space? We can start with you, Ms. Khurana, and then.
I think it's a very individual thing. I can understand, generally speaking, if you would like to generalize that, maybe women are more understanding because they put themselves in the same position. But I've also seen, where women actually, as they rise, and the few women who rise up, they say, oh, if we could do it, why can't you do it? So I think that's very individual based. I would never generalize that. See, by the end of it, if you see the skill set for every job is the same for a man and a woman. You may find that, okay, a woman, but, you might say the motherly instinct, the understanding will be more, but I would really not generalize that.
Okay, fine, fair point. Ms. Kaur? All right. Ms. Gupta, anything that you feel, because you were the one who mentioned that, your incident with the
I
IS
just
officer.
follow, so my mantra is like I follow 4 C's in my life. One is courage, confidence, commitment, and consistency. If you have the courage to take up the things, you can do it. if you have the confidence ki you will do it, you will do it. And if you have the commitment ki I have to do it, you can do it. And if you will have a consistency to, to give to execute the plan in a very consistent and smooth manner, you will do it. So if you will follow all 4 C's in your life, I'm very much sure success will follow you and you will never see failure in your life. Just follow 4 C's in what I follow. I just request all the girls who want to join renewable sector in future and who are presently in renewable sector, just follow 4 C's and you will actually see the magic.
I think we can add another C to it, maybe capacity building should be there. Especially we were talking about mentorship, we are talking about women networks. So I think capacity building is also a very key aspect of, getting more women, especially at leadership positions, in important roles, in policy making roles, and financing roles. I think that is also important to a certain extent. Yes. Ms.
I mean, I do quite agree with Mani that it's hard to generalize, of course, because that also generalizing will take us back to the stereotyping.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So I quite like to stay away from stereotyping and to say that women are more understanding or more empathetic or more emotional, as people say. So I think that's rather unfair to say that women are more emotional. I've seen instances where men have also, been quite emotional or quite aggressive or responded disproportionately to a certain situation. So I think I would like to steer clear of such stereotyping. Having said that, I think the right balance is important at the workplace, so that we are able to get both women as well as men's perspectives to a certain problem. It leads to better outcomes in terms of problem solving, in terms of more sustainable solutions as well.
Right. With that, I'll move to the audience now. If anyone has comments or questions, or they want to, I already see a few raised hands, please. You can stand up, introduce yourself and address your comment or question to any of the panelists.
Thank you. Hello everyone to the panel. This is Nidhi Gupta. I lead a startup which is into trainings and legal trainings. One pertinent thing that came out during a conversation is there have been regulatory support from the government in terms of the Maternity Benefit Act, which also provides the crèche facilities. But the thing is, apart from a couple of or a small proportion of industries or companies which have a decent philosophy or policy perspective, a large section of startups and MSME companies are actually not hiring women to save the maternity cost. Now, one important point that Ms. Khurana was making is it takes a tribe to kind of raise a child, right? And companies today, at least the smaller ones, are like creating a viewpoint that why should we kind of contribute to that support system? We are here for business. The support system should come from family. Just to add to that notion, I know of an organization which kind of clearly drives the philosophy that for 1 or 1.5 years of that struggle period of that woman, every male member of the organization has to take the load. And it's clearly from the DNA of the organization that train the male members to kind of share load with women, at least in that 1.5 years time when the women needs support the most. But this is not going to almost a big chunk of audience. It's only to relevant or restricted to a couple of good size or good philosophy organizations who are following it. On the other hand, these rules which have come out in terms of maternity benefit and crèche, actually the data is showing they are, on the contrary, the hiring numbers are going down for women. So what's the exact solution? Or the solution is like, shall we think of a broader social change where the family needs to be involved to kind of get the right, because most of the times women face problem during that 1.5, 2 years time when the child is young, right? So how do you basically look at family in this entire context?
Yeah, I think social change is, I don't know, we can go on talking about it, but maybe. a short
Yeah,
comment.
so I
from
think that's a very valid point, and thank you for sharing. I think family is quite important. I think it does take a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to support a woman to continue with her career. And I remember one of my senior managers once, she cracked a joke, but it's partly true as well. She said, the best decision that you will make for your career is who you end up marrying, you know, because your spouse and in turn your extended family, like your family, has the single most important impact on your career in terms of managing your career while you are away at work. So I think it's also quite important for us as society to recognize that everybody has to take some load at work as well as at home, you know, to support women, you know. Unfortunately or fortunately, like you mentioned, household duties and childcare predominantly still in our society driven by women of the house. So that's something that cannot change overnight. I don't expect it to. But what we can do in our personal spaces is to support the women in our lives, in our families, and help them continue with their career.
Right.
I think
You
it's
wanted
working
to
now.
add something? Yeah.
Is it working? Yeah. Okay. I completely agree with your colleague who said that, by the way. It makes, yeah. Just to your point, you're right. Many organizations are thinking about this and trying to do something in that, but many organizations are not. So I don't think, and one size cannot fit all. See, the point is if you are just opened up an organization, when you're looking for hiring new people, you will go through the CV and then whoever is better suited for the job, you'll give them the position. Now the question comes up is, if if you have two candidates, a male and a female, and the female is actually 10% better than the male, but you hire the male, because thinking the female will take off when it comes to her marriage and then when it's pregnancy. Now that's when the discrimination comes in. And that is the thing, I think, and it's on all the women in this room to prove that we will continue working and we can balance the two. And this change will take time, but I don't think there can be a magic wand when all the agencies and all the organizations start taking care of this aspect of the gender.
Right.
And clearly also, I think, sorry.
Please,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And also, I think the mindset change has to come from us women as well. I read in one of the recent books that, women are less likely to apply to a job. Let's say there is a job, and a man fulfills the criteria to the extent of 60%, he will go ahead and apply and do well in the interview. And women will have doubts and the imposter syndrome, even if they qualify to the extent of 80%. So I think sometimes we tend to be quite hard on ourselves, and we have this, we struggle with the imposter syndrome. And I think that we need to overcome that as women. Sheryl Sandberg's book, yes. She talks about this imposter syndrome in her book, and she talks about this readiness, that women are less likely to apply to a job unless they meet 100% of the criteria.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I see a lot of raised hands. We can go to Sir first in the last row, then we'll come to you, ma'am, and then we'll come to you, ma'am.
Madam, good afternoon. Myself, Karnal Singh Virdi. I've come from Rourkela Steel Plant, Steel Authority India Limited, sir. So first of all, I want to add, because we are talking about the solar power, and as we all know over here, Steel Authority India Limited is one of the best organization who produces steel for the nation. And I just want to add over here, I want to just extend the topic what the three panelists were talking about. In my organization, at presently, I got 3 women who is heading the departments. Like safety department is headed by Asha Karta. She had joined in 1992. And then we got a PPC department, Production Planning Control Department in Rourkela Steel Plant, again headed by a woman. And again, I got one more department, that is Instrumentation Department. The lady passed from IIT Kharagpur in 1990. She's heading the Instrumentation Department. And you see, Rourkela Steel Plant, being a producer of the hot metal for the nation, we have got 3 HODs at presently working, and Sunita Singh as a PPC, heading the production planning control. A very dangerous plant, which we are handling the hot metal, being headed by the 3 ladies and heading the departments. It's a very proud moment. And as you all know, recently, 1.5 years back, we had a chairman of Steel Authority India Limited being headed by Soma Mandal. So the organization, which is in that organization where the ladies now is picking up the heads in many of the departments. And presently, if I go now, there are 3 ladies in the hot strip mill too, madam. They're operating the overhead cranes. Overhead cranes, like their overhead crane taking up the load of 30 to 35 tons of that coils. So ladies are really excelling very much in my organization, and I hope they will be excelling in the other organization. And as when we come to the IITs, when I joined in IIT in 1984, passed out in 1988, there were only 2 ladies who were there in our batch. And presently, now the IITs, one was from the electrical engineer and the other was from the chemical engineers. But now, as the madam who is sitting in front of me, I'm very happy to see she's from IIT, mechanical engineer, working in the solar. And so it's a very proud moment. The ladies are really coming up, and we must give a big hand. They will excel in every field of life as the days come back. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. All right, we'll take the question from ma'am in the 5th row. Can you please bring the mic to her? 5th row, 5th row.
Thank you. I'm actually working in the sector as an outreach specialist for the last 25 years. And so I have a comment and a request. 25 years ago, we came out with a magazine called RE Source that went out to all middle schools. We were lucky we got funding from UNESCO, and we got funding from the Ministry of what is today New and Renewable Energy. And it was really heartening to receive feedback on the quizzes and other aspects of the magazine from children who had no idea what renewable energy was and what are the different components. And so that was a really nice, exciting time for all of us in the sector to reach out to schools. So as the panelists said, we do need to catch them young. And I have personally started going around to schools and talking to them. And you have to do this at the 8th standard itself, because some of them do not have any idea as to what subjects they need to study to get into this field. They have this wrong notion that you have to be a STEM major to get into the energy industry or the clean energy industry, which is not true. I mean, look at you know, the panelists here today. You all have entered the economics route. You all have taken the engineering route. So there are various routes to get to the industry. So I have a request to more women industry leaders to take the effort, make the time to go to schools and to talk to them. They're very open to setting up these sessions. So once you all actually explain to them that there are different routes to get to this industry and one doesn't really have to be a STEM major, that would help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll take probably that one last comment and question.
Hello, so this is Priyami Datta from IISD. So I was just listening to the elite panel over there and also to the audience. So I just have this thought that we have often seen that how we have discussed that how women are perceived to be the caregivers and they drop out of workforce or they do not continue with their job due to marriage or due to social pressure or pressure of household chores, or as the child grows up, not only during the first 6 months or 1 year, even as the child grows up till she or he attains a certain age, women generally, women opt to stay out of the workforce and it becomes very difficult for them to rejoin it. So the entire narrative centers around women being the nurturer, being the caregiver. But in nowhere in the picture we ever discuss about a man getting married, about a man becoming a father. They are also equal partners in life, right? In all these life milestones as we name them. So I know while it has some larger societal implications, but is there anything which the industry can do to promote the concept of men also being a caregiver or nurturer or being equal partners in these life milestones?
I think that's a difficult question, but I don't know who would like to take it.
I think some organizations are thinking about it. So, like the maternal leave is for 6 months. A few good organizations actually give the paternal leave, which first, the mother takes it and then the father takes the leave. So I think, so we all discussed that, right? The mindset change, it's happening. It's there. We need a lot more awareness, but I think more and more organizations are realizing, and I was it's there in different countries for sure, but in India also it started happening, which is a great positive step, and that's what, is required.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I think the European countries do a very good job at this. I think in Europe, several companies have equal maternity as well as paternity leave. So they don't discriminate. Like if a family, if a couple has a kid, the father and the mother both get leave, and it is equal in duration, which is very impressive. We are not quite there yet in India, but I do hope that someday we will be. But I think we do need to set an example and set role models, right? And again, that starts early. I think it's something that we need to educate our girls, but also our boys, to, so that as growing up, they see that both parents are taking a fairly proportionate share of responsibility at home. And that's how those boys will also grow up to be men who will do that when their time comes, right?
Right. Before we end this session, just maybe 2 positive words from each of you about how the sector is evolving in terms of more, representation, greater representation of women in the sector. I'll start from you, Ms. Gupta. All right. Ms. Khurana, you can start and then we'll come to Ms. Gupta.
How the sector is evolving?
Yeah, just some positive words to end the session.
No, everything is positive about renewable energy. As we mentioned in the starting, there are huge targets to be met. I actually find this is a great opportunity for anyone who wants to enter this industry. Because frankly, who had heard about battery storage, green hydrogen, pumps, these are all, they're new subjects compared to what we've been doing. So there's a huge opportunity of things which are coming. Now we are talking about long duration energy storage. There is huge potential for people to come in, be it in e-mobility, someone had mentioned, charging infrastructure, how to make charging infrastructure based on renewable energy. Because right now, most of our energy is still through, coal. So why, can we have charging infrastructure which is just based on renewable energy? That way you would make the entire e-mobility thing green. So there are lots of opportunities. And anyone who wants to enter this space can do that. So I see there's a huge opportunity for anyone who's interested.
Right. Ms. Kaur.
I mean, obviously, like Mani said, the sector is growing, and it's growing very rapidly. Technology is advancing very rapidly as well. And I think one advantage that we have as a country is that we have a very large, very talented, and very skilled young workforce. And I think we have to leverage that to our advantage. And I think that will really help India in achieving the renewable energy targets and also being a successful participant in the energy transition.
Right. Ms. Gupta, final thoughts before we end the session.
So, yes, what ma'am said, yes, opportunity is there. And the good thing is government is also taking interest in providing all the facilities so that renewable sector can grow. We can see PM Kusum Yojana is there in every state. We can see the rooftop solar Yojana is there. So government is also taking all the steps to get the renewable energy sector at a next level So yes, opportunity is there, target is there, and at the same time, requirement of young force is there to get these things done. Thank you.
Thank you. A big hand for all the panelists, Ms. Gupta, Ms. Kaur, and Ms. Khurana. And before we actually end this session and this conference, we would like to felicitate these ladies who are working in the solar energy sector and to recognize their contributions to the solar power sector. I would like to invite Ms. Kanan Kumar, who is Senior Vice President and Head of Conferences team at our company, to please felicitate Ms. Nidhi Gupta. We've got a cover of Renewable Watch designed for you. I would like to request Mrs. Mudita Mehta, who is Senior Director in our company, to please felicitate Ms. Kaur. I would like to invite Mrs. Nandita Kochar, who is our Editor-in-Chief, to please felicitate Ms. Khurana. Thank you so much. If I can have a picture with the panelists.